Yeah, I have a pretty good view of him from here. Anyone supporting animal rights is okay in my book. His protests used to have a bit more energy, though. He spends more time inside his tent these days.
What's he doing in there?
I'm happy to say, I don't know.
There might be something I can ask Echo about. Echo spends more time holding the protest sign because he's so terrified. Oh, that doesn't make sense, does it? Echo has never spoken to Sally Spears because he's so terrified. I don't get it. There's something people have noticed about Echo. Echo has recently acquired my breakfast and plans to eat it. Oh, that doesn't make sense, does it? My breakfast has recently acquired Echo's poncho and plans to eat it. I'm losing my mind here. Echo has never spoken to Echo's poncho because he's so terrified. No. What's Echo been doing recently? Echo has recently acquired the gift shop because he's so terrified. I don't get it. Seriously? Echo spends less time holding the protest sign and more time in his tent. I wonder if Echo can tell me what he's been doing that's more important than his protest. I heard you've been spending less time protesting recently and more time, in your tent. Normally I wouldn't pry, but it's my job to ask.
Untouched people have even noticed something like that. I usually get the impression everyone else is doing their best to ignore me.
So, you admit it's true?
You can put your notebook away. There isn't really any reason for it. Nothing worth writing down, at least.
Well, if it's not worth writing down, maybe it's worth hearing.
In that case, you'd forget it.
How do you know? Maybe it would Echo in my mind.
Look, if you take a guess and get it right, I promise not to deny it.
Let's work out why Echo was hidden away in his tent. Notebook time. You've been in your tent, hiding from Boggy.
Why not?
I think it's time I went to talk to Officer James. So, this is where they found Remington's body.
You finally returned. Well, did you find the swamp creature? Where is he?
I didn't find him.
What? You're not getting paid to wander about aimlessly, Grimoire. Get back out there.
I don't need to.
Why not? I thought he was our prime suspect.
Not anymore.
Didn't you find photographic evidence of Boggy from last night? Let me see that photo. If that's not Boggy, what is it?
I found designs for the costume in a trash can. Not only that, I collected all the pieces of the costume myself. Well, nearly all of them. There's still the one that...
But the footprints at the scene of the crime! How can you prove these don't belong to a real creature? How can you prove these don't belong to a real creature? What's this? I thought there were no records of a footprint anywhere.
No public records. The footprints at the crime scene don't match the ones on this page. They were just a product of these slippers. A part of the costume.
But Grimoire, this costume, it doesn't have claws of any kind. How do you explain the 3 wounds on the victim's chest?
The prongs match up with the wounds perfectly. The handle's even covered in slime, see?
Ah, but this swamp slime was one of the reasons Boggy became a suspect in the first place. Surely this only incriminates the creature further.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But that slime, it's not exactly what you think. This stuff has an uncanny resemblance to the so-called swamp slime. A bunch of it was stolen from the storeroom of the cafe, which reminds me.
What is that, exactly?
A poisoned hot dog. It's the second reason that the murderer broke into the storeroom. He put this green powder on the entire supply, just to make sure.
To make sure of what?
To make sure Remington got ill and had to return to his office.
Remington went back to his office? Alone? I've been looking through your evidence, Grimoire. One piece in particular seems critical to me. I think we need to work out.
Video footage? Vincent Vanderpeer filmed it last night, at the exact moment of the murder, I believe.
Well, exactly. I think we can both agree these sounds in the background. They're essential in our mystery. Could you talk me through them? Just rearrange the descriptions on the left to match the sounds on the right. Drag them around and keep swapping until you're happy with the order. And if you want to hear the sounds again, you can tap on them.
No problem. I can always check my case file if I want to go over my notes. I think that's it.
Ah, excellent. There's just 2 small details bothering me. First of all, if Remington ripped off a piece of his curtains, why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it? Why wasn't it found at the crime scene? What happened to it?
Turns out the murderer took that piece of fabric and concealed it inside the head of the costume. Then he fled the crime scene to hide all the parts in different areas of the swamp.
Ah, well, that's my problem. If Remington fired his rifle, how did the assailant survive and manage to escape? Did Remington miss his target?
At point blank, a man of his experience? I don't think so. In fact, the answer to that question is the very last link in our chain. The one thing that has eluded me so far. I'll drag the clue items from the left onto my drawing here, and we'll see what happens when we compare the pieces I collected with the original design I found.
Wait! You never found the body piece! The torso!
You're right, and I never would have found it. Not lying around. Not like the others.
But what does this have to do with the murderer surviving the rifle shot?
This torso is probably made out of some thick material. Something covering the culprit's entire upper body. I believe it may have even been enough to
soften the impact from a bullet! Aha!
Exactly.
Well, let's put your theory to the test. Where is that last piece of the costume? 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 But how? We looked everywhere. Not a single clue.
Simple. He's still wearing it.
I don't know what you want with me. Sounds like you two were smart enough to uncover the real criminal in this swamp, and lucky enough to have somebody else deal with him for you. You worked it out. He had his rifle on him. He got half a glance at me and pulled the trigger without hesitation.
But why would he do that? You were dressed as Boggy. He shouldn't be pointing his gun at a unique scientific specimen, not to mention his main attraction.
You're right. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, does it? Not unless you're in on the secret. Echo forgot to tell me that Bobby Burl was here to hunt Boggy. I'm losing my mind here. Echo forgot to tell me that Richard Remington was here to hunt Boggy. Oh, that doesn't make sense, does it? Bobby Burl forgot to tell me that Echo was here to hunt Boggy. Oh, that's a secret that Remington kept hidden in his office. Richard Remington forgot to tell me that Echo was here to hunt Boggy. No. Richard Remington forgot to tell me that Bobby Burl was here to hunt Boggy. What is that supposed to... The hunting photo leads me to believe Bobby Burl was here to hunt Boggy. Maybe I just need to change one thing. The reason Remington first came to the swamp. The hunting photo leads me to believe Echo was here to hunt Boggy. Ooh, that's nearly right. The hunting photo leads me to believe Richard Remington was here to hunt Boggy. A secret society, an order of hunters, seeking out mysterious and elusive creatures.
The order goes further than this one man, and much further than this one swamp.
The whole thing is kind of distressing. I knew something was wrong as soon as I stepped into that office.
I'm glad you've finally come around. It's not just
But what about Remington? He was a member of this order?
He made Boggy his own personal project, his own obsession. For years he hunted the creature, the potential perfect addition to his collection.
But he owned the tourist attraction. He set it up himself, didn't he?
He did. It was just his way of forming a legal loophole. Since the area became protected, he and his friends were unable to come here for hunting anymore. Boggy's Bog was just a front for his own little game. A man pursuing a creature.
A creature that might not even exist.
And that's why Remington kept a rifle nearby at all times?
Well, exactly. He didn't want to take any chances.
Now, don't you see? I did this place a service. Did Boggy a service. That creature, he can live in peace again.
Can he? You tried to frame him for murder. You wanted everyone to think he was some kind of ruthless predator?
Well, think about it. Once he became suspected of murder, they'd have no choice but to shut this whole place down. Everyone would finally realize they had no business here.
How can you know what Boggy wanted? He might not be what you're...
Detective.
It's
finished. Well, don't be angry. You should be glad. It's finally time to leave the swamp. You have another job to do.
I don't know.
Not that it makes any difference to somebody like you, but I never intended to kill him. Just to scare him. Convince him Boggy wasn't going to let him live here in peace any longer. But, true to form, he had his rifle on him. You worked out the rest yourself.
It makes a difference.
Well, Mr. Everstone, I'm afraid you'll still have to come with us. Fortunately, there's a police station just a few miles down.
Hey, wait!
Aha! Looks like you solved more than one mystery tonight.
Grimoire.
Well, what did they decide to do?
We had Mr. Everstone questioned. He was happy to tell us everything he knew. A number of rumors going around the department have been confirmed.
And Remington's office?
Searched down to the last detail. And well, we agree with you, but I know what you're thinking. I'd love to put an end to it, just the same as you. But there's always...
Are we going